It's Monday night, and you know what that means. The Jersey First Television Network proudly brings to you the latest edition of Real Talk. And yes, I am the generational talent in Garden State media and the hero you need right now, ladies and gentlemen, because let's be honest, the establishment media here in New Jersey, they'll continue to lie to you every single day. But guess who won't? That's right, Fernando Uribe. I want to welcome you all in here, folks, on this the 19th of May. Again, as we're rolling along in the month of May, my favorite month of the year. I want to thank you all again for tuning in from wherever and however you may be doing so right now on Facebook Live via StreamYard, also on X, Instagram, LinkedIn, and also on YouTube. Folks, we appreciate you tuning in here. And of course, again, it just speaks volumes about the loyalty you have to Real Talk here on Jersey First TV. Folks, again, just a quick programming note here. As you can see there behind me, obviously, this past weekend, I do want to thank everyone that came out to celebrate my birthday. And yes, folks, it's a new decade. Yes, the big 5-0 for Fernando Uribe. But you know what? Still handsome, still witty, still funny. So, when you talk about aging like a fine wine, yeah, folks, that's Fernando Uribe. But in all seriousness, I want to thank everyone for coming out this past weekend, celebrating with yours truly. And again, another year around the sun and another new decade for Fernando Uribe. So I want to thank everyone that made it so special this past weekend. Folks, again, if you haven't done so already, take a few seconds here. Make sure you like, comment, and share. Of course, make sure you like us on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram and X, and of course on YouTube. If you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe to us. Click on that little bell button right there. You'll be notified of all the great content we bring you every single week via Jersey First TV. And of course, whether you get your podcast on Spotify or SoundCloud, download Jersey First, and you'll be notified of all the great programs we bring you every single week. Folks, I can't say enough. What a privilege it is to be on the dream team of Garden State Media. That's right, folks. It's always Jersey First TV. And without a doubt, check out every Thursday, of course, brand new episodes of the Nader Narrative premiere, hosted by my outstanding tag team partner, the amazing Elizabeth Nader. And brand new episodes of Real Talk with Fernando Uribe premiere every Monday night. Check your local listings, of course, for start times. And of course, we appreciate you supporting Jersey First TV. Folks, you want to stick around? We have a jam-packed final thoughts. A lot of people to sort of talk about in this political climate. And when I think about pendejos and, campesinas in New Jersey politics, I think about, the least photogenic people I've ever seen on my screen. And that's, Bob and his, wife, Patricia. And a little bit more about why this couple is so toxic in New Jersey politics. And I think that being around this level of toxicity probably isn't good for political candidates during this election cycle, but more on that a little bit later. And I'll get to tell you more about these two pendejos during final thoughts. And of course, folks, what did we learn last week? Yes, everyone that I like to laugh at here in New Jersey media, in academia, in activism, yes, who all have been diagnosed with Trump derangement syndrome, were in denial for all these years about the former president, the 46th president, Joe Biden, as they denied Joe Biden's mental acuity and his cognitive abilities, right? Oh, didn't we learn about that? Oh, yes. Joe Biden's juggling knives and doing trigonometry homework and doing somersaults, right? Well, folks, a lot of the people behind me there were very complicit in lying to you, especially the establishment media here in New Jersey. And I'll tell you a little bit more about why these people, everyone behind me, should never be trusted again when it comes to political discourse. And last but not least, of course, we'll talk about one of the worst candidates running in this year's state assembly primaries, and that's Hoboken Mayor Ravi Bala. I'll tell you more about Ravi and what an awful candidate he is, and of course, why he shouldn't be trusted in the 32nd Legislative District. So, of course, folks, all on that during final thoughts. You want to stick around for sure. And again, folks, take a few seconds. Like, comment, and share tonight's episode on all your social media platforms. We appreciate you supporting us here on Jersey First TV. Folks, it's an election season. I'll tell you, there's always a lot to talk about. And a guy who's in the know who, I happen to call a friend, and a guy who I have an enormous amount of respect for. He's one of the co-founders of Wake Up NJ, and you can follow them on Instagram and X, also on TikTok, as well as on YouTube. Make sure you like them on Facebook. Folks, he's Michael Archon joining us live right now here on Real Talk. Michael, how are you?
Doing pretty good, Fernando. How you doing today?
I'm doing well, man. And as you can see, a little bit later, folks, you'll get to know why I'm rocking the little orange here. It's the New York Knicks or the Eastern Conference Finals. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later. So I'm rocking the orange and black tonight, folks. here on the show. So drop a comment there and we'll read some questions out loud. If you have some questions for Michael Archon, once again, one of the co-founders of Wake Up NJ. Michael, good to see you, brother. How's the spring and election season treating you so far?
It's been fun. It's been really interesting reading comments online, but everybody's very enthusiastic, I'll say. So it should be an interesting primary.
Yeah, so let's get right to that. Last night, I had a chance to watch the replay of the New Jersey Globe debate for the Democrat Party gubernatorial candidates. Tomorrow night at Essex County College, we'll see the Republicans debating. Obviously, that field has shrunk since really February when we first got to see all of them on a stage. We'll get to see State Senator John Bramnick, radio personality Bill Spadea, and former Assemblyman and 2021 gubernatorial candidate Jack Chiarelli on the stage. But before we get to them, I got to tell you, man, first and foremost, I'm so impressed with the work you put in with Wake Up NJ. It's such an informative page. Everyone that's associated with it really, I think, does a great job in putting content out there that matters and that's informative. And maybe for our audience that just is learning about you for the very first time, what prompted the creation of Wake Up NJ?
Well, it was a group of parents that were just fed up with the nonsense. And we saw the political landscape online that really no news is being put out on our side. I mean, sure, maybe here and there, but figure we need a hub for information for folks to go to. I mean, really how it got started was masks in school and fighting back on the woke nonsense, the DEI, and it grew from there. Energy, it's basically a one-stop shop for anything that's going on in New Jersey. Now we have communities that deal with Doge, that bills happening, and we have some parental rights and green energy, but that kind of got combined into other platforms and entities. So really, it's really just whatever you want to look for. Our handle is probably covered it. There's actually a search bar, at least on X, and you can look for any keyword, and we probably covered it online on there at least.
No, listen, great job that you all do with Wake Up NJ. Again, folks, if you haven't done so already, again, follow them on Instagram and X, as well as on TikTok and YouTube. Make sure you like them on Facebook as well, because they're putting out content every single day. And they're really informing us about how irresponsible Trenton has been for years now. And especially during this election cycle, Michael, obviously, Governor Phil Murphy, thank the Lord, is term limited, so he cannot run again. But we're seeing a very fickle primary season. We saw it last night among Democrats, and it almost seems like who can out-progressive the progressive to be more progressive on that stage last night. It was kind of alarming to think that, somehow the affordability problems in New Jersey, again, we have the highest property taxes in the country at least an average of over $10,000. I mean, I forgot what county you're in, but I live in Hudson County. I walk 2 blocks and I look at Manhattan every day. Okay. But I can drive on what's called River Road right along, northern Hudson County. I'll go into southern Bergen County, and sure enough, I'll run into municipalities that are averaging $14,000, $15,000, $16,000 in property taxes. Or I can go south and take 78, for example, and going to Springfield, going to Short Hills or Summit. We're talking about over $20,000. It just seems like whether it's property taxes, we just saw the final phase kick in for the gas tax in January. So now, as the summer months are approaching, and we want to go down the shore, we want to go to the beach, we want to go PNC Bank Arts and go to a concert, whatever, we're paying 47 cents more per gallon. The tolls on the Turnpike and the Parkway went up again this year. But somehow Democrats want to make you believe that somehow Donald Trump and Republicans have been in Trenton for 20 years, pretty much, turning this state to absolute shit. I mean, what am I missing, bro?
I think we're missing informing voters more. Obviously, they have a pool of voters that listen to like their MSNBCs or their CNNs or whatever apparatus they're listening to, Blue Sky, or whatever their news source is. And I think the problem is that we need to be louder and more vocal about like what's happening in Trenton. I mean, you mentioned property taxes. We mentioned income tax, corporate tax rates, lifetime or tax is 54% in the state they take from you. I mean, the state just takes, and it just doesn't give back. And now they're going to be taxing and nickel and diming entertainment, bungee jumping, paintballing, anything you could think of under the sun. Where does it end? I mean, at a certain point, it's unsustainable. You can't keep doing this to people in New Jersey. So as I said, the more you focus the people's energies about who's hurting them the most, the more you wake them up, and they'll get these people out of office that are hurting us constantly.
No, absolutely. And again, not just a gubernatorial race that we're going to have this year, certainly on November the 4th, but all 80 state assembly seats are up for grabs. And obviously, listen, I'm a realist, where I live in Hudson County. Up here, we have the 31st, 32nd, and 33rd legislative districts. I mean, there is blue as Windex. So I really don't see those districts, really, flipping. But there's a lot of vulnerable Democrats, especially in Central and South Jersey, some in Bergen County as well, that have been complicit in whether it's all this woke bullshit about gender, about corrupting our kids in our school system, about plastic bags, for God's sakes. I mean, I don't have enough fingers and toes, Michael, to name just the amount of stupidity that comes out of Trenton. And somehow it's like, well, again, it seems like it's a tired old playbook by the left in Trenton, where they've had a control. Again, folks, and for everyone at home that isn't familiar with the stats here, Democrats have a control of the majority in the assembly by 52 to 28 margin, and by, at least from what I remember, a 23 to 17 advantage in the state Senate. Now, again, the state Senate seats aren't up until 2027, but Republicans can do some real damage this year. They can flip as many as 8 or 9 assembly seats, which again doesn't make them, get the majority, but it's going to shave into that advantage that Democrats have had. And I think the message should be clear, Michael. It's like, listen, what's going on here? Let's cut the fat out in Trenton. I mean, it's budget season, and it's Memorial Day is this Monday, and the budget still hasn't been decided. And it's almost like, like the midnight hour on June 30th, which is by state law, that's what's mandated here in New Jersey. And if it doesn't get signed by the governor, then on July 1st, we have a state shutdown. We've had a couple in the last 20 years. It just seems like Democrats in the Assembly and the state Senate are just, they're waiting until the last. It's almost like that kid that waits until the last minute to submit that term paper. And we know more times than not, it's a shitty result.
Well, last year they did the same thing. It was like the last minute they finally passed it. And what's mind-boggling is I think they do it on purpose because people aren't paying attention. You mentioned it's summertime and people are busy and everything like that. So as I said, I mentioned before, you have to keep informing of what's going on. And us just calling out, like, for example, bills has actually gotten bills stalled and stopped. And it's just little things like that. You do have power. You just need to be more vocal about it. You need to be talking to your legislators, talking to your neighbors, talking to your work, your workmates. And it's really important to keep giving them information, because guess what? They are corrupted by terrible information that is ruining them and putting them in a bad place and hurting to fix this state. And the more that we keep doing that, the better. I'm telling you, good information really is amazing. It really, opens the eyes to a lot of people.
And you certainly put out a lot of great information. And folks, again, if you're just joining us live right now, it's 6:13 on the East Coast. And my guest tonight, he is one of the co-founders of Wake Up NJ. You can follow them on Instagram and X, as well as on YouTube and TikTok. Make sure you like them on Facebook. He's Michael Archon, joining us live here on Real Talk. Folks, if you have any comments or questions for Michael and I tonight, drop them in the comments section. We're happy to read them on the air. Now, Michael, again, you're handsome man that you are. I've seen you on camera in Trenton, speaking in front of panels about the ongoing, let's be honest, this energy crisis we're going to see on June the 1st. We're going to see our utility bills skyrocket. And in a time when I'm sure it was discussed last night, I'm sure it'll be discussed tomorrow, the Board of Public Utilities is a useless entity in Trenton. Horrible oversight. New Jerseyans are going to be paying more coming up June 1st in energy bills. I mean, again, hopefully it's not an overly hot summer, but, just when we want to put up, turn on the AC, we might not be able to when we look at our utility bills.
Do you want to discuss what happened in Trenton?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I want to hear. Yeah,
because I look at this topic here. This topic of energy can make or break this election. And the Democrats know this. And that's why they're putting out a flurry of bills. I believe it's 7 or 8 bills. And I'll comment on the one I mentioned on in Trenton. But they're desperate to control the narrative. They want to look like the heroes here. They want to look like the people that are wearing the cape saying, we're just trying to help you out and save you. The problem is that they literally caused the problem by pushing pet projects in your utility bills with hidden costs. $344 million is in your electric bills that they siphon from there every year. It's pretty gross. Going from wind energy, climate equity, EV chargers, EV rebate programs. Why are these in our electric bills? I didn't want that in there. Who demanded that? Who mandated that be in our electric bill? And I told Lisa Swain when we were at the meeting, I said, it's disgusting that you do this, that you mandate this on the public. There's absolutely zero reason to do it. And you closed 6 plants since Murphy's been in office and championed the closures of nuclear and coal plants while not replacing over half the energy that was lost with those power plants. It's gross. And then you're going to tout, oh, we're doing wind farms. They never happened. Solar farm, it's not enough energy. You didn't say we have enough energy and then we close plants. You close the plants for optics, for your green energy push, and never actually fixed the problem in the first place. So you, the ratepayer, are being screwed over by the Democrats that are telling you they're the saviors with these bills.
And it's interesting because obviously now Governor Murphy, even though he's on his way out, is feeling that pressure too. I mean, obviously, I don't think he wants to go out with a horrible legacy. I mean, he doesn't have a great legacy to talk about to begin with, but now it almost seems like Democrats in the assembly are looking for a lifeline. They're either hoping for the governor to do something via executive order, or to your point about trying to pass some bills in this legislative session to, again, make themselves to be the heroes when, let's be fair, again, it's not conservatives like you or I or Republican elected officials or any, people like that. That's not the reason New Jersey is in the mess that it's in for the last 24 years. And it just seems like, I get that the playbook now during this election cycle is going to be like, well, New Jersey has to resist Donald Trump and we have to fight against Doge and fight against, what is it a fight about? If anything, there's a fight for information, because really at the end of the day, it's not Republicans that have ruined New Jersey. It's one party that's had a one-party rule. Again, listen, we've had Republican governors too. I don't want to absolve Chris Christie of any culpability. Chris Christie is just as much to Jersey, again, towards the end of his term. But let's be fair too about, like, Democrats are trying to sort of say, well, it's not really our fault. It's these greedy energy companies. No, it's trying to stick into these bills, clean energy or attempt at it, or green energy. And who are you fooling? Who are you fooling right now when you know that the reason New Jersey's a mess is because of far left policies, Michael?
Well, it was February, for example. And, this energy hike they were talking about, at least 20%. And I was sent a message and said, hey, look at my electric bill. And I said, okay, let's just kind of dig into it, right? And I noticed these things called SBCs, which are these societal benefit charges. And the more you dig into things, the more you find out that $344 million, all the nonsense that's in our electric bills, like the wind and climate equity. And it's crazy because, like, I didn't even know about that till February. How many other people don't as well? And now there's so much noise being made about from Republicans, from so many users online. And it's because information we shared, other people dug into things. And the more that's dug into it, you talk about, like, we're paying for homelessness, we're paying for DEI nonsense. There is so much waste in this state that they keep building up this budget. We can cut so much fat. They just don't want to. And they know it. And at that meeting, for example, I called them out saying, this is in our electric bills. You vote yes. You're saying you're okay with raising our electric bills. And it's funny, like, they did it. And I'm like, now you're on film. Now you have nowhere to run. I called you out, and now it's on film for it now. So whenever they say, oh my God, like, we're doing this for you, I'm like, no, you literally just did it on purpose to raise our bills to pay for storage for nothing. There's no wind farm storage because there's no wind farms. So what are you doing?
It just seems, again, like the willingness for Trenton to be just engaging in so much waste it's maddening. And again, just to give our audience at home a clear perspective. And by the way, shout out to Kate in the comment section there. Kate tuning in here. Love you, Kate. Thank you for tuning in. And please keep tuning in every single week here on Jersey First TV. I mean, again, when Chris Christie left office in January of 2018, the last budget he signed off on was $28 billion. Okay. They just sound like Dr. Evil, billion with a B. And now at the end of 8 years of Phil Murphy, I mean, at least what this budget's going to look like, Michael, we're talking about $56 billion. I mean, listen, the budget has gotten fatter.
I'm pretty sure it's 58 actually, dude.
Okay. I mean, it's gotten fatter than, like, the latest Victoria's Secret models. It's crazy. I mean, and to your point about waste, listen, we see it all the time. We see these grants to these nonprofit organizations, such as, coddling illegals, Planned Parenthood. Again, these are all organizations that could be self-sustaining. And the idea that they mooch off the taxpayer dollar here in New Jersey is just embarrassing. Again, that's why it's so critical that the next governor be a Republican. It's as simple as that, Michael.
Well, we need not only a Republican governor. You mentioned the assembly. 8 seats were lost last time, and a Senate seat. Those 8 are still vulnerable because you lost them last time. You had control of them. My pie in the sky is 14. But I mean, like, I want to see gains just like Trump did in every single county in New Jersey, in every single district, even if it's heavy blue. Let's see the shift happen. Let's see these Democrats be scared that their strongholds are not the same as they were just 4 years ago. And the more we're involved, the more we're knocking on doors, the more we're informing, the more we're inspiring. Guess what? This state isn't purple, it's red, and it continues to shift that way. And imagine in the next presidential election, we elect a red we go red for this thing, and we go red for the Senate. Like, this is very, very important, and people need to understand, when you go and, like, after this primary, you need to come out and vote in November. I don't care if you don't like the candidate. We have so many local elections that are going to be affected by this, and I don't want your bitterness and your ego to stain like a victory here. We need everybody involved to make this work.
Absolutely. And shout out to Julie there on Twitter, as well as Kate. Ladies, love you. Appreciate it. Share tonight's episode here, as my guest is Wake Up NJ co-founder Michael Archon, join us live here on Real Talk. Michael, you mentioned about, I kind of heard the smell of tribalism, and that's what's going on right now. And let's focus on the Republican primary. And obviously tomorrow night will be the last debate coming up, courtesy of the New Jersey Globe. My good friend there, David Wallstein, along with Micah Rasmussen and Joey Fox. I think Matt Rooney will also be joining the panel as well. And listen, I think we heard it last week after President Trump formally endorsed Jack Ciattarelli. And the minute, it's funny, I was actually hosting this show last week, and I could see comments and my phone blowing up about, oh my God, look what happened, blah, blah. And literally within the span of 2 hours, you saw so much fickle, infantile, and in many instances, childish behavior by a lot of my Republican friends and conservative friends on social media that just felt like, well, the president doesn't know what he's doing. This is wrong. And I get that. Listen, people have their candidates of their choosing. Good for you. Again, I'm glad there's a primary. There's no county line. I think that's a good thing. That makes people have to work and not just think that they're entitled to an endorsement, whatever. But the bottom line is that, on the morning of June 11th, and again, I'm not trying to, I'm not endorsing anybody, but here's the facts. I'm looking at numbers and not polling, but talking to operatives and committee people throughout the state. Jack Ciattarelli is going to win the primary. It's as simple as that. I know the Bill Spadia fans are going to be pissed off at me. I don't care. I'm here to call it like it is. I'm not here to play favorites. I'm here to call it like it is. On June 11th, Republicans, and if you're looking to win over independents, you have to rally together to flip New Jersey right. New Jersey cannot afford it, figuratively and literally, another Democrat as a governor. We just can't. And I'm hearing this tribal behavior and this fickle behavior. We saw it last week. Mike Crispy hosted an online forum on Twitter, and you can just hear people being like, well, if Bill isn't the nominee, then I'm just going to write Bill in November. Like, what the F is wrong with you? Whoever wins the primary, you have to rally around them. Folks, in 2021, 35% of registered Republicans voted. I'm going to say it again. 35% of registered Republicans voted. If you had at least 10% more, Jack Ciattarelli's the governor. But because Jack didn't check off every box, or, Jack didn't, Jack spoke at a luncheon, didn't serve my favorite condiment, whatever the F people do, and they come up with all this bunch of bullshit doing, we can't have that, Michael. And I hate to sound so animated about it, but this really pisses me off because Democrats aren't this tribal. You have a D next to your name, they're going to rally around the Democrat nominee. Republicans sometimes get too tribal, and it costs us in 21. It could cost us in 2025. Where am I wrong, brother?
I look at this primary, and it's very nasty. I see Jack doing ads against Bill. I see Bill doing ads against Jack. And for myself, we don't endorse. We just call it the nonsense, as we see. And the nonsense is we don't want people sitting home. We want you to elect who you want to elect. But again, after June 11th, have to come together. It's always the message. It always has been for over a year. And, doing a write-in is not going to work. You mentioned Jack might win. That's a possibility. Bill might win. Mario, John Bramnick. These are all possibilities because you have no idea what's going to happen in a primary season. But there's advantages for all of them. Bill's social media campaign is really good. Jack with the GOP base is really good. Believe it or not, John Bramnick being in the Senate is really a big plus to have people to break bread with on both sides. Mario being a mayor, really in a blue area, really is good to break bread with a lot of people. I want these people to come together after June 11th. And John Bramnick even mentioned it, come together and have a press conference and say, we need to work together to flip New Jersey red. And, Jack mentioned as well, too. I know Bill, hasn't really pronounced like unification. I hope he does. But I want people to come together because the more we do, damn, this state is red, dude. There's so many independents we can inspire and inform and really lift up about what's happening here in the Garden State and really change us. I mean, you guys don't want to leave. I don't want to leave this state. It's a great state, has great weather, great beaches, has mountains, for God's sakes, waterfalls. There's so many amazing things here. And I want to save this state for my kids, my family, for you guys. That's most important to me. So, you mentioned you're for Jack. I don't care if you're for Bill. Just get out and vote. But also, just remember, the goal is to change and flip New Jersey red. So that's what my message is as far as my handle goes.
Listen, I'm with you, brother, and you really personify that so well, along with everyone else at Wake Up NJ. And again, we saw last week at the NJ Spotlight News debate when David Cruz, Brianna Vannozzi asked, it was David Cruz. One of the few times he works during the week. He asked the Republicans there, whoever the nominee is, will you support them? And immediately, a lot of people got fickle with Bill's answer. He wasn't, Bramnick said, I'll support whoever the nominee is. Jack said the same thing. And you saw Bill a little, hesitant to just sort of verbalize that. And that immediately just started, the tsunami on social media. Oh, why isn't Bill supportive? And we'll find out tomorrow. Again, we'll see, because I'm sure that question's going to get asked by either David Wildstein, Micah Rasmussen, Joey Fox, or Matt Rooney. Because ultimately, again, Republicans have to rally around somebody. Again, even though Democrats still have a registration advantage, it's been shaved though, Michael, because again, I would say 4 years ago at the end of Phil Murphy, when Phil Murphy got reelected, there was over 1.1 million more registered Democrats. Guess what? That number has been shaved down. It's barely over 800,000. So Republicans have done a good job registering new voters. I think independents also, are going to decide this election. And to your point, I think that Republicans have to just come together and keep, whether it's sharing your content or my content or other, because to your point, there aren't a lot of us out there doing reputable journalism and media. There just isn't. I mean, again, it's not like a gimmick, with the moniker that I use, but the establishment media in New Jersey doesn't help us, Michael. I mean, it lies to us. More on that later, folks, during Final Thoughts. But they lie to us. They don't prioritize what's important. And again, again, and I text Jack when I saw the first ad that he aired. I think right before the Super Bowl. It's not about pronouns. It's about property taxes. I mean, we have to kind of rally people together. It's not about all the woke bullshit and gender and electric cars. That, let's be honest, look what's happening in California. I think Republicans and independents have a really good chance here to not just flip New Jersey red with a Republican governor, but reshape the assembly, at least in this cycle.
I want our candidates to be focusing more on policies. They do attack each other way too much, and that's really a bothersome thing. And there are so many issues, guys, that can really rally people. I mentioned the electrical bills earlier. You can talk about EV mandates. You can talk about woke nonsense in schools, DEI, the budget, gas tax. Oh God, there's so many things, guys, that can really fundamentally empower people to want to get out and vote. Property taxes, income tax, corporate tax rate. If you want to start a business here, you can't do it. We're the most exited state in the country. There's a reason why all these things are happening. Progressive rule is truly hurting every person of New Jersey. And the people in Trenton have sold you a bag of lies, and it's time for a change, because guess what? The more that they're empowered, the more they're going to keep doing the nonsense. So they're not stopping. You mentioned the budget. Under Murphy, it went from 34. You mentioned Christie was 28. It went from 34 to 58. I believe that's the number right now, without any alterations to the bill. That's absurd. That amount in 7 years. You're talking about the illegal immigrants, sanctuary cities. There the list goes on, guys. And if these candidates can just come together on those issues, which most of them honestly agree on for the most part, like we can really do some heavy damage to these areas that are really ran under progressive rule. Independents are actually registered more than Democrats and Republicans in the state, and they're actually making great gains. What's interesting is in March we had a voter purge of 160,000 registered Democrats and independents, and only, I believe, 10,000 Republicans. So something happened there with the voter registration. I don't want to conspire to conspiracy theories, but you can probably deduce what actually happened there. So the point is, let's make sure we keep registering voters. Let's make sure we get good information out there. And you mentioned the media right here. The media does us a disservice. So the more we wake up people, the more our handles grow. We are the news. And no, I love people that have one follower to a million. They have some great information that's really helped our handle out and helped grow their handle as well too. So definitely keep sharing things, guys, that you see out there, and send us anything that you see as well. We'll help your handle grow.
No, absolutely. And to your point about flipping, I mean, again, what we saw November the 5th in last year, I mean, there were parts of New Jersey where Donald Trump made tremendous inroads. I mean, we saw Passaic County actually flip. Okay. We saw towns like Passaic flip.
Bergen.
Now, yeah, parts of Bergen as well. I mean, folks, Donald Trump came within 5 points of winning New Jersey. And that was for the first time that could have happened since 1988 when George H.W. Bush last won New Jersey's 14 electoral votes. I mean, it's been solidly Democrat, nominees that have won here in New Jersey during the presidential cycles. Obviously in 2020, and I don't want to, delve into what 2020 was. Obviously, I think there's enough dishonest things about what went on in 2020, not just only the fact that the guy was the former president. But the point is that, New Jerseyans didn't buy into what was going on with Democrats and their progressive platforms. And again, within 5 points, Donald Trump came of, again, winning New Jersey's 14 electoral votes. I think that this cycle is going to speak volumes, I think, about Republicans hopefully not sitting home. Listen, we saw last year, man, people were voting early. People were voting by mail. And again, these are the apparatuses that Democrats thought, oh, this is how we're going to keep winning elections because, we can manipulate this. Well, Republicans got smart. And if you remember during early voting, there was a record number of New Jerseyans voting early. Mm-hmm. There was a record number of Republicans voting by mail because they knew, like, listen, this isn't going anywhere. Let's use it to our advantage. I mean, we're seeing Scott Presler, okay, the big conservative influencer, going up and down New Jersey, telling residents, hey, make sure when it's time to vote early, vote by mail, make sure your voices are heard. There's really no reason why, with all the information out there, Michael, to your point, that New Jersey can't go red this November the 4th. We saw parts of New Jersey go really, really red. New Jersey could go red this November. It takes a concerted effort, though.
Oh, definitely. There's no excuses. There is no sitting home. If you care about the state of New Jersey, you care about your family, your kids, the money in your bank account, you need to come out and vote. And if we lose, that's what happens. But I want massive voter turnout, because if I see that people sat home because of bitterness or ego, their candidate wasn't in it, like, I'm sorry, like, you're in it for the wrong reasons. We need to be in this to win this, because, the Democrats, they're going to vote in a Dorito. That's going to vote in basically anybody. They can, a pencil, they'll vote them in, because that's how much a dedication they have. Do not be naive. They're going to come together. They're going to turn out. We need to make it bigger than ever you could ever imagine. We need to be in lines out the door for days for early voting. Day of. Mass mail-in ballots. I don't care for mail-in ballots. I want them gone, but that's how we want to do it. So be it. But to fix those apparatus like voting, we need to control the assembly. We need to control the Senate and the governor's office. You want these things changed, like voter ID. We need to control things. You want to change tax brackets and budgets. We need to control things. You can't just say nothing will ever change. Nothing ever changes. It doesn't change because people aren't more involved. I ask to give 5 minutes a day. In 5 minutes a day, we can change the state in less than a couple of years.
Listen, you said it perfectly. It just takes 5 minutes to share information. And we're always on our phones, or we're on our iPads or our tablets and MacBooks or laptops. All it takes is just, again, 5 minutes. Share information. You do a great job in putting information out there, not just like bloviating and just in talking points. Like, you're coming with facts and numbers and stats And I'm a stat nerd. I'm a nerd for this stuff. So when I see pages like yours, and folks, by the way, if you just joined us live right now, keep the comments coming. I'm seeing brand new comments here. Shout out to Kate. Once again, D-Scan on X. Who else? Julie as well. Love you guys. Please share tonight's episode here. As my guest is Wake Up NJ co-founder Michael Archon here live on Real Talk. Again, folks, takes 5 seconds. Like, comment, share, and subscribe to Jersey First TV. You know, it's whether it was last week or even after 2021, I was constantly going after Republicans and just saying conservatives online, like, you're the reason that this fickle behavior cost us an election. And it just seems like, and you said it perfectly. Yeah, last night you saw 5 Democrats going at each other, taking jabs. But I promise you, folks, on the morning of June 11th, when Mikey Show's going to win the primary, I'll go on record right now. That's my prediction. I think it'll be a close one, but Mikey Show's going to win. I guarantee you, Ross Baraka, Josh Gottheimer, Steve Sweeney, Sean Spiller, even Steve Fulop are all going to rally around her because, again, at the end of the day, for them, there's a D next to her name. There's a D next to Michelle. That's her real name, actually. Not Mikey, it's Michelle. But, you know, there's a D next to her name. And if Republicans want to be fickle because, oh, well, you know, I like Mario Kranjak. Okay, well, I'm sorry, folks. Mario got into this race in February. Give me a break. Come on. John Bramnick, I'm sorry. Not a very inspiring candidate. I get you like Bill. I like Bill as well. I like Jack, too. We got to make a decision here on June 10th. But once we make it, we got to rally around that person. Because if the letter R is next to their name, that's what we have to vote for. We have to, again, make the effort here. We can't duplicate 2021, Michael. And it just seems like some people just don't get that through their head. They just think, well, if I just keep complaining, things will get better. No, it won't get better. You have to get off your ass and do something about it. Vote, share content, and make people informed. I mean, I'm getting all emotional about this, but like it drives me up the wall, Michael.
You know, it's funny. You mentioned to get people involved. One of the things that actually started this handle was, you know, I mentioned masks. And going to board meetings without masks because it was completely, you know, arbitrary. I actually wasn't even in the EO for me to be there in a mask. But anyway, it's besides the point. You know, I'm fighting there for my kids not to have them on and everything. And I hear so many people online, oh my God, I don't want to wear them. Oh my God, my kids. I'm like, well, come out and fight for them. And nobody would show up. And I see actually, you know, more people want to get involved now. I see a big shift. I mean, you saw a big shift with the BOEs the past couple of years. And that's thanks to a lot of different people around the state. But like, there is a lot of more people involved now than then. And you know, with Donald Trump getting in office, you know, just remember, you know, just because he's in doesn't mean things always change. We need to keep going. You can't stop. You need to put your foot on the gas. Because the second you let up, these Democrats, they're going to just go and bust on in and try to take everything away that you try to do. So we need to be doing everything humanly possible. I don't care what it is, a bumper sticker, a T-shirt, a hat, talking to people, you know, drinking from a coffee mug, you know, and doing a selfie like this, you know, like, you know, whoever you're voting for, you know, flip New Jersey red, or like, you know, anything you need to do to really inspire people, do it. You know, we're making like songs right now because we just, you know, we're trying to have fun with it. But the point of the matter is you need to find creative ways to really inspire people to want to make change here. And it's also about, you know, I would say it's morale. Morale is huge. And we've been defeated for so many years. You're drinking from a coffee mug right there. Nice. And, you know, good advertisement there. You know, you see morale, and the more we have morale, the more people will have involved. And that's another thing, is making sure that morale is up. No matter what happens, we need to make sure people are excited to want to get out and vote. And people need to be also known that we need to make sure people know that we have an election coming up too, because so many people don't know that also.
Yeah. I mean, again, normally turnout isn't great during a primary. But here in New Jersey, where a lot of, again, I mean, I'm not trying to be mean, but there's a lot of low information voters on both sides. Who aren't even aware, who aren't engaged, to your point. I mean, you have to be engaged. Again, I love New Jersey. I grew up here. I want to retire here. Okay. I'm going to find a way to do that, obviously. And I think many of us that are tuning in tonight want to do the same thing, but that's not going to happen, folks, if we're not electing better people that are more fiscally responsible. And that starts on June 10th and then obviously on November the 4th. A point you brought up before, by the way, which was interesting because, you know, I know you go through the budget, you look at these numbers and you look at what's going on. Again, you know, I've been the only journalist that rallies against this, but, you know, the far left in Trenton have had the ears of so many legislators. Again, when we have organizations getting grants that openly they're coddling illegals, that they're openly trying to defy ICE agents that are trying to come into our communities and save us from criminals and illegals that are here. Okay. Again, here in New Jersey, we take taxpayer dollars into the budget, and a fund has been created going back to when Phil Murphy first started that enables illegals to have legal representation at our expense to fight deportations. The idea of ending this sanctuary state madness. I mean, look what's going on here in other states. I mean, thank the Lord that the president of the United States right now, is cognitively competent and is making sure that ICE agents are coming in and removing criminal illegals. Okay. Listen, I'm the son of immigrants, Michael. Okay. I'm a first generation. My parents came here with a suitcase and that's it. One escaped communism, one escaped poverty in Latin America. Okay. Both of them in Latin America and the Caribbean. And you know what they taught me? They're like, hey, we have to make sure that behavior like this isn't encouraged. They came the right way, as have millions of others. But what are we seeing in our cities, man? What do we see? We're seeing, obviously, many illegals crossing the border, having their kids here. They're overcrowding our classrooms, using up social services. Okay. Many of them are just, vandalizing our communities. In many instances, raping, murdering. Doesn't make me anti-immigrant. It makes me anti-criminal. And that's what's going on here. It just seems like a lot of Democrats in Trenton would rather virtue signal. They'd rather have publicity stunts in front of an ICE, detention center than actually get to the root cause of, hey, Matt Plotkin, why don't you let ICE agents come into New Jersey and do their jobs? It just seems like Governor Murphy and far-left Democrats would rather pander and virtue signal, Michael. And again, this election is so important because if we don't eliminate the sanctuary status of the state, I think we're doomed.
Definitely. But I'm going to give you some hope with this, by the way. If you didn't notice, people approve of Trump more than Murphy in this state now, in New Jersey, which is wild. Okay, that means independents are involved with that as well. What you're seeing is the left really melt down over illegal immigrants and MS-13 gang members and rapists and all kinds of other horrible things they've done. And they look like clowns. Honestly, the more they do it, the worse they look. I'm not encouraging it because but they look terrible when they do it. Independents are turned off by this nonsense. They're turned off by excess budgets. And honestly, the Democrats are a sinking ship. So they're going to just, cling to their things like abortion and gun rights and the feel good things, that they're going to try to run on. We need to hit home kitchen table things, family, money. I can't afford my car. Is it heat or food this month? Okay. And say who is really, truly for us and who's truly against us. And I encourage Republicans, be more vocal if you're in our assembly right now and you're running for candidates, because too many are quiet about what's going on as well. And also, we need to put pressure on our Republicans to actually do, if we get them in office, to do the things we want to do and not just sit idly by. I definitely implore you guys to get involved with your legislators in your local areas. In our handle on X, you can actually search your local community, county for any information. You can actually search it for budget stuff that's going on. You can search for DEI, and any kind of nonsense that's going on in your area. I think it's vitally important you get involved locally and make sure that the more we take back things locally, the more we take the state back as well, too. Mention BOEs. Definitely go to your BOE meetings. That's your property taxes being affected there as well. Commissioner meetings. Get involved there. There's a lot of things that are happening in your local area as well. The more that we are involved, the better. And also know the process of let's say your area is very red, but they're pushing something blue. You need to be more involved, because if you're sitting idly by and not paying attention, they're passing crap you don't even know about, like a homeless shelter in my area. And I feel bad for the homeless, but they're bringing everybody from Burlington County to my area. And I'm like, that's great. I didn't know about this. And they said, well, it was on the board. I'm like, how was I supposed to know that? You know what I'm saying? So the more involved we are, the better. That's my fault for not knowing about the homeless shelter. But Lordy, I checked my bulletin board. It wasn't even on there. So I think they lied, honestly, or hit it very well.
And it's interesting you mentioned about housing. I mean, that's another big issue, I think, during this election cycle.
Oh, yeah.
It's interesting because, the catchphrase affordable housing, I think, has really been weaponized during this election cycle here in New Jersey, whether it's the Mount Laurel decision or just in general. Listen, where I live up here in Hudson County, I mean, it's the most deeply populated county, not just in New Jersey, but arguably in the country. And I can tell you, Michael, I've grown up here my whole life. I have seen what this area looks like. I mean, when you drive right by the waterfront, 10, 15 years ago, there was hardly anything there. Now we're seeing a lot of luxury condos, rentals. Yeah, we see some commerce. We see like restaurants and shopping, all that. But whenever developers see even 1 square inch of land that they can cultivate, they're going to do that. And it just seems like, it's not so much about, well, we need to start having more affordable housing in suburban areas. No, we need to lower rents or lower property taxes because, again, at the end of the day, look what's going on in Florida. Governor DeSantis is basically saying, like, we can do away with property taxes. And it just seems like if anyone even had that radical idea in New Jersey, imagine like the outcry in Trenton, right? The ability of Trenton to squeeze this out of municipalities. Now, I get it that in a lot of, in a lot of counties, property taxes help fund our schools. And, suppose we have the best schools in the country. I don't believe the NJEA.
Oh, hold on. Best schools.
Yeah, I don't believe the NJEA, like I believe the New York Mets are going to win the World Series. But the point is that, like, to me, I would argue affordability has to be at the top of the list during this election cycle about not just a discussion, but real solutions. Don't just say, well, we need to build more affordable housing. I hate when elected officials say that because at the end of the day, when you press them, they don't know what that means. Oh, well, we have to find a way to build it. Who's building them? Are you caving to developers? Like, there's no easy answer to something like this, but some electeds will make you think otherwise.
There's an easy way. And the Mount Laurel doctrine, 100%. Affordable housing is a polarizing issue because the left is trying to say we need more of these things, right? But the problem is that affordable housing isn't affordable, right? So then you're subsidizing it through taxpayer dollars like us. So we're paying for those houses as well. And the next problem is that the mandate on these towns, right? You're telling these towns that they have to build the X amount of houses. Why? Who's paying for those houses? Are we? Then you got developers being promised probably by the government to build these, are suing said towns because they're not building these things, right? And I'm going to tell you the worst part about this because Murphy said in his budget, and I mentioned somebody mentioned it earlier than that. Okay, Murphy wants to just basically bypass all your local legislation that are trying to stall this and say we're going to make the decision for you where that goes. It's something he wants to push, guys. It's really gross. He's doing it with cannabis. He's doing it with the affordable housing. They're basically trying to say your local town's jurisdiction on this matter, it doesn't matter. We're daddy, and you're going to make the decision. And I implore every town to say, hell no, don't do it.
I'm with you. And I think, and to your point before, I mean, obviously, the fact that President Trump right now in New Jersey is more popular percentage-wise than Governor Murphy speaks volumes. I mean, listen, I was there last May, actually, it's really more than a year already since Wildwood. And I was there in the press pit and the tower with the rest of the journalists covering President Trump's visit to New Jersey. And we saw that at the time, the 45th president, got more than 50,000 people on the beach in Wildwood. I remember the sunburn that I got, but it was worth it to cover that event. And you saw the energy for President Trump. And again, it was a horrible economy. We saw, now we're learning things that we already kind of knew already, the decline of Joe Biden and how incompetent the administration was. And, President Trump was highlighting that. And you saw an energy for him. Again, I don't want to sort of tell the administration what to do now, but once the primary is over, if Donald Trump finds a way to come to New Jersey and campaign for Jack, I'm going to tell you something right now. I think Democrats are going to shit their pants, Michael. They're going to shit themselves because based on that polling, Donald Trump's popular in New Jersey. Forget about what the establishment media tells us, folks. Forget about Insider NJ, NJ Spotlight News, NJ.com, and all the establishment media. Don't believe them. They've been lying to us for years. They told us that Joe Biden was competent. We're learning he's not. And more on that later, folks, during Final Thoughts. But I think the president, again, we'll see. He endorsed. We didn't think he would endorse in this race. He did. I wouldn't be surprised if the president comes to New Jersey, but I'll tell you right now, if he comes to MetLife Stadium, that's going to sell out, Michael. I almost can guarantee it right now.
I wouldn't want Trump to come out for any candidate, honestly.
True,
if Jack's the winner, if it's Bill, whatever it is, I'm sure he'd endorse Jack, but like if Bill were to win, if John, Mario, like to me, I would love that presence here. But honestly, people that are watching this, don't wait for one person to save the state. You can save the state each and every day. And Trump definitely resonates with people, and people coming in here like Scott Presler and Brandon Straka definitely, engage voters. But every person watching this can engage somebody. It's really, it's inspiring when I see people and they're like, I talked to my neighbor and now they're voting, or like, oh my God, I didn't know about this. I just shared it with my coworker. you can be the catalyst that changes things. If you talk to one person a day, you're reaching millions of people by the end of the year. And it's incredible if we can do that together. And definitely it's a we thing. Like I love Trump and that's an I. I want this to be a we operation. Come together, unify, togetherness. And guess what? We're facilitating our own areas. We're not waiting for somebody to come in to boost it. We're boosting it ourselves. And that's really what my dream is for this and everything. Trust me, do you think I want to be going to Trenton and testifying? I don't.
No.
But like, I want to make sure that people are aware of what's going on. And if me going to Trenton really helps somebody out that is aware and inspires them to just talk to one person, dude, it was worth it.
Michael, it sort of begs the question. You look great on camera. You always speak so eloquently when you go to Trenton in front of committee.
Sort of. Depends.
What's that? No, listen, I call it like it is. That's why I'm the broadcast journalist here. That I tell it like it is all the time. Again, man, you're always speaking truth when you're in Trenton. It kind of just begs the question: why aren't we seeing Michael Archon on a ballot somewhere, brother?
I love what I'm doing. You know what? It's funny. If you probably run for office, I don't think I'd love it as much, honestly. And I like doing this. Now I'm a construction worker, if you guys don't know, a union construction worker, which is amazing that there's so many people, if you don't know in a union, they're for us, which is crazy. And I love digging into things. And hopefully when I'm done my construction days, I want to do this for you guys. I want to dig into things that are going on in the state more. I want to be more, active in what's going on. But running for office, that's something that may be down the line. But for me, this is something I want to do. And I don't want to, change that at the moment here. So I'm just going to keep, plugging away, and keep, sharing as much information as I can and making the memes, making the songs, making the, the pictures and the videos and all kinds of stuff. Because at the end of the day, I love doing it. And if you love doing it, you'll want to do it more. And that's just with any job. And find the joy in anything you do. And shit, you'll be happy as hell.
Michael, you hit the nail on the head right there about running for office. And I can tell you, I ran for state assembly in 2011. And it was exciting running for office, trying to win a assembly seat in a deep blue area. But you're absolutely right. I mean, I've been enjoying what I've been doing with journalism for years now. I just feel that I can espouse more change. Certainly my brand has grown, as yours is as well. Congratulations to you for that. Again, all your hard work.
Congratulations to you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that, brother. Again, everyone else at Wake Up NJ, I know it's not just a one-man operation. It's a collective team. But I'm having more fun doing this. I mean, and tons of people have told me, Fernando, bro, why aren't you running again? Why don't you try for this? I said, I got to tell you, I'm having more fun. First of all, I'm making nice money with this. So, I mean, I don't want to pass that up. But I'm just having more fun dissecting what's going on in politics in New Jersey. And again, there aren't a lot of conservative podcasters that are doing what I do. And again, I say it all the time. The establishment media in New Jersey lies to us every single day. And I'm proud to say that, I have better traffic than a lot of the establishment media people here in New Jersey. All these propagandists, Michael, that are masquerading as journalists. And it's really embarrassing in this field. I've only been in this field for a few years. And I think I'm doing more than people that have been in this business for 30 years and are pretty much inept, and they just continue lying to us. I mean, take your pick, whatever news site, again, whether it's lying to you about Joe Biden, whether it's about lying about what's going on in Trenton, whether it's lying about, the budget, we need this and we need that. No, listen, if any state needs a version of Doge, Michael, it's New Jersey.
We have it on X right now. I have an entire community that's been calling up the nonsense, and people have been digging into the crap. You'd be shocked, as I said, how much waste is happening here in the Garden State. Homelessness. Illegals alone is $7 billion a year. It is wild, how much money we waste on crap. And I think when it comes down to is this, you mentioned, journalism. I just want to keep doing what I'm doing every day, and yeah, I mean, seriously, what it comes down to is this, I think that if I can really help somebody out, whether it's one person a day, it's worth it, man. Because that one person might be in charge of I don't know, 1,000 people. And those 1,000 people talk to another 1,000 people, and you inspire, inform, and keep growing that organism of inspiration and end that corruption that legacy media is doing here. You know, I look at like News 12, and I love News 12 for a lot of things, but they don't cover everything. Like I send them like budget stuff, and they're like, nah, don't worry about it. Like kudos to them. They mentioned my voter ID question to Murphy where he poo-pooed it. But like the point of the matter is that like they're not doing their due diligence for the people of New Jersey. NJ1015 actually does a great job on a lot of things. Spotlight News, not so much, but you know, like, but the more we get bigger than them, the less effective they're going to be. And that's what it comes down to. You're the media. I'm the media. You're the media watching this right now. The more you dig into things, the better it's going to be, man.
I'm with you, man. And again, and that's the great job that you do with Wake Up NJ. I mean, again, you're putting information out there. And listen, just the admission you made right now about News 12, the fact that they don't even want to report on something this important. I get, you know, it's 30-minute intervals and there's only so much you can put into a news broadcast. But my God, when it comes to your point about $7 billion that it costs taxpayers, ultimately, again, caught in the illegals, the project of thinking that in Newark, 16 and 17-year-olds should be voting. No, they shouldn't be voting. I remember what it was like when I was 16 years old. And I get that. And listen, and by the way, something that News 12 won't report, or NJ Spotlight News, or Insider NJ, because they all had a party in their pants about, oh my God, look at this great, you know, enfranchisement of young people. You want to know what the turnout was, folks, in Newark on election day for school board? It was like in the single digits.
3.9%.
What's that?
It was 3.9% as far as I
recall. And we wasted, and we didn't waste like a couple of dollars here, folks. We wasted millions of dollars in this ridiculous nonsense. And it just seems like whether, and listen, Ross Baraka, he's the mayor of Newark. He's just as guilty for pushing this ridiculous narrative. Because it's interesting. No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
And completely unconstitutional. I contacted lawyers that didn't want to take it up. Why? You got Matt Placken, right, our AG, and he's going after schools for a guidance 5756, which is hiding information from parents. And you don't want to look at something that's completely unconstitutional. I called his office. 16 and 17-year-olds can't vote in New Jersey, yet they voted. I called our election boards, had people call. You know what? Election board said, call Newark. I'm like, Newark's not answering. I'm asking you personally. No, everybody involved with this, from the governor to assembly to Senate to local boards, should be fired. You did something illegal, and yet no one's taking it up. Why? It makes absolutely zero sense.
Yeah. And what's interesting is a lot of these left-wing organizations like the ACLU of New Jersey, Make the Road New Jersey, a whole bunch, you know, New Jersey Working Families Party are the first ones to say, well, you know, it's important to have our young people engaged in our process, right? They're 16, 17 years old. They want to be involved. I guarantee, and by the way, folks, if you all remember, you know, there was a 16-year-old that murdered police officers in Newark, by the way, okay? And what is their defense about, oh, we need to try them as adults. Oh, they're only 16 years old. They're only children. Their brains aren't really fully developed yet. So wait a minute. So we can't try 16-year-olds for murder because their brains aren't fully developed, but somehow, logically, right, the left and all these idiotic progressives and woke fools will say, oh, but their brains are fully developed to vote, Michael, right? Like it's bullshit.
You want to know something also, though? I look at that push for 16 and 17-year-olds to vote, and a little part of me has hope because their voter base is dwindling that much. That's what they're resorting to. But also, you got to be concerned here. They have a 3/5 majority in every apparatus, assembly, Senate, and obviously the governorship, to put amendments into our Constitution. Don't be surprised if they see the shift happening in November that they're winning. They might put a constitutional amendment on the voting block. I'm not saying they will. Just be mindful about how important your assembly is, that they can't do that then. They can't just like make 16-year-olds vote. They actually have to put it on there. Now, mind you, the U.S. Constitution will supersede that. But like, this is something that's important, guys. You need to make sure that you're involved. That way this crap doesn't keep happening here.
I'm with you, man. And it's mind-boggling to me where, you know, Matt Placken's priorities, I have to tell you, are as effed up as I've ever seen for an attorney general. It's like, oh, to your point, he wants to go after school districts that aren't, you know, that don't want to acquiesce to all this woke bullshit, you know, gender, you know, coddling mentally ill people. Yes, folks, that's what trans people are. And no amount of hormones or plain dress up or makeup is going to make a man a woman. And no amount of chopping off your hair and chopping off other things is going to make you a man if you're a woman. So it just seems like, you know, Matt Placken's priorities are just in the wrong place. And what's scary to anyone, again, and for someone like Steve Fulop, the mayor of Jersey City, who's openly said, hey, by the way, if I win the primary and I get elected governor, I want to keep Matt Placken as attorney general. Are you effing kidding me? I don't want this guy trying a case in traffic court, much less being an attorney general for another 4 years or 4 hours or 4 minutes. It's mind-boggling to me. And mind you, by the way, folks, it's interesting when Matt Placken wants to talk about how safe New Jersey is because of gun safety laws. No, folks, more and more New Jerseyans have been registering and applying for firearms permits, not because I'm anti-police, but people have taken upon themselves to protect their properties. Maybe you don't have a chance to wait for the police to come save you. You have to save yourself. But somehow Matt Placken forgets that there's a record number of firearms applications because New Jerseyans have learned they have to take care of themselves. You know, Matt Placken walks around with armed guards as well as other people in Trenton. Well, no offense. I mean, we're just as important as anybody else. So Matt Placken, again, it just seems like his priorities are misplaced, whether it's staying up for illegals, whether it's staying up for, you know, the alphabet mob. And we're seeing that, like, and even trying to fight the Trump administration, wasting taxpayer dollars on these bullshit lawsuits, Michael.
Using your tax dollars. But the worst part about it is that they know they're not going to win a lot of these things, right? It's all to basically rally their side. That's all it is, because they've basically polluted and corrupted a lot of people on their side. It's not a lot of people on their side's fault, in a lot of honest opinion here. A lot of people just don't know they're getting terrible information. And that's what really comes down to. There was a book by Gad Saad I read called The Parasitic Mind. And basically bad information corrupts and infects people. And you have to replace that with good information, good topics. Like on Twitter, for example, I don't know if you guys know this, but I take a hit every single tweet I put a link on. The algorithm messes that up. But I want you guys to have references for PDFs, links, anything I put on there, because then you go back and check exactly what's happening here. Because I'm not lying. I'm putting it out there per the website or per the PDF or per the budget, because I want you guys to be informed here. And the left won't do that. They'll just say, oh, poof, Doge called the bridge incident over the week. I'm like, how? Just say those things because they're just bullet points. Come with some meat here. And guess what? The more that you show that to people, the better it's going to be, because they'll actually dig into it themselves more and want to consume more. Because guess what? People that get screwed, if they find out they're getting screwed, they want to know who to aim properly at, and you can wake them up forever.
Absolutely. Before I let you go, Michael, not in any particular order, but I'm going to sort of rank what I think are going to be the big issues after June 11th, going throughout the rest of the summer and going into Labor Day, because I think arguably people are really going to start paying attention after Labor Day. That just seems to be the norm in New Jersey. Unfortunately, I'll be paying attention every day and talking about it on the show, but I would argue in no particular order. I think New Jersey Transit and that ineptitude, affordability. I think certainly whether or not the next governor will work with the president of the United States, where, again, polling is telling us that the next governor should work with the president of the United States. And I would say last but not least, I think that at the end of the day, it's probably going to be about property taxes and spending. Again, the budget has already been passed by November, so we're just operating the next fiscal year. But I would argue, I think those are probably the 5 biggest issues that the 2 nominees are going to, I guess, go back and forth with for the rest of the year. Is that fair to say?
I would say we actually missed a topic here. Okay. I don't know if you have time to talk about it.
No, please. Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
S2 funding formula is humongous. Okay. Newark, New Jersey had an explosion of state funding. And Tom's River, I compared the two, got decimated with funding and went down every single year, while Newark went up every single year. So argue with somebody on TikTok, and they're saying, oh, it's about enrollment. I said, Tom's River enrollment is consistent. It's not went up a little bit, went down a little bit. Newark's went down, yet their explosion happened here, okay? You know the big difference between Newark, New Jersey and Ocean County? One's a heavy blue area and one's a heavy red area. And one didn't push illegals into their schools and one did. And one enrollment size shot up because of that. And guess what happened here? It's not based off equity, people. It's based off politics. The people in Trenton are screwing your areas over, especially heavy red ones, per politics. And don't let them tell you that it's not, because you use that word equity, and equity means we're just going to tell you how to distribute that money properly. They're just screwing you. That S2 funding formula needs to go. It is bad. And I implore that any township that's in New Jersey here, if we can figure out a way to start reducing your amount of federal state aid and try to find better ways to fix that, we don't have to worry about when this happens anymore, right? We're self-sufficient in our own areas. Now, mind you, it might increase property taxes. So there's a whole like thing we need to fix with that. But the S2 funding formula is humongous. Like it is bad and decimating red areas really badly here.
No, I'm really glad you brought that up because again, Tom's River has been in the news cycle. We saw that they lost obviously a certain amount of students. They're gonna have to downsize some of the schools. Meanwhile, Newark, we're seeing the Board of Ed and we're seeing the teachers union in Newark having lavish dinners, lavish parties, and they're all about, well, we want 16-year-olds to vote in elections, but let's be fair. What are the math, reading, and writing skills for New York students? Newsflash,
I can tell you,
they're not very good. So
they
it's interesting about how.
Sorry.
What's that?
Newark, New Jersey.
Okay. No, and it's interesting.
Go ahead.
No. I was just gonna say, and it's an embarrassment that Newark, with all the money they're getting, is still a dysfunctional school district, Michael.
Yes, they are severely below average comparatively to Tom's River. What's mind-boggling is Tom's River was on par or even above state average, and Newark was completely below state average. So Tom's River, New Jersey, if you're watching this right here, in Ocean County, Lacey, and all surrounding areas, you were hurt on your state aid because you did too well. Versus Newark, who did terrible. They were rewarded with more money because they were worse off than you, which is amazing. Like, you don't throw money at a problem. Like, you screwed up. Tom's River had to cut down trees to stay afloat. How mind-boggling is that? While Newark, as you mentioned, had a lavish party, had beer at a party with kids on school premises and gave teachers raises.
And mind you, they're trying to attract new potential teachers by saying, well, hey, come work in the Newark Public Schools. The starting salary is $67,000. Michael, you couldn't give a job away to people to go work in the Newark Public School system. And it's mind-boggling to me how, again, it's a disservice that the state establishment media does here, where they're not reporting on this. They'd rather demonize school districts again who are challenging Matt Plotkin and Governor Murphy about 5756, and oh my God, and how transphobic and homophobic these school districts are because they're not supporting. No, it's not about this. It's about making sure that kids are learning. The idea that, again, we have the best schools in the country, that's bullshit. That's just not true. And I think that more and more sites like yours and other influencers are waking people up to a lot of the nonsense that we're being fed by the establishment media when it comes to the issues affecting parents, property taxes. And again, I say it all the time. It's not about pronouns. It's about real world kitchen table, living room issues. And before I let you go here, man, again, obviously, you're doing great stuff every day. Any plans for Wake Up NJ to interview any of the potential candidates coming up during this election cycle?
Honestly, if that comes up, sure. For me, like, I don't think we've gotten to that point now where we're doing interviews. I actually bought a microphone and I can't get it to work with my my phone. So as I get better equipment here, just be mindful. I'm unpaid. Twitter does monetize me right now a little bit, which is nice. And TikTok finally started doing, even though I can't get the stuff to work. But like whatever I get, I basically put back in there. We just did like a prize for a flag, for example. So I wanted to put everything back into the handle for equipment and microphones and different things like that to help get more content out for you guys to help share what's going on in this state.
It's listen, you're doing great work there, man, and I always appreciate your time, folks. It's a little after 7:00 here on the East Coast, and my guest here, as we're wrapping up here, is one of the co-founders of Wake Up NJ. He's Michael Archon, joins us live right now. Folks, if you haven't done so already, like, comment, and share tonight's episode. A shout out to all the people watching tonight. Let me make sure I give all the love here to Kate, to D-Scan on Twitter, also Julie25. Let me just get some shout out here. I also saw someone named Gregory Kipp. Shout out to you, brother. Appreciate you tuning in. Obviously, everyone here commenting. Please, again, folks, keep the comments coming. Of course, share tonight's episode. Michael, again, you're a wealth of information. I love what you're doing, man. I really love that we connected online, and obviously, I got the privilege of meeting you in person in February at the first gubernatorial debates. Are you stopping by tomorrow night at the?
I was invited. The problem is that I have to get to Newark, and it took an hour and a half to get there. It was just way too much nonsense. I would love to have been. Rider University was like 10 minutes from me, so that was a lot easier.
Yeah,
so.
You know what? When Rider is like an hour 25 for me, and I was just like, oh my God. And now, I mean, Newark is still like 15 minutes away. And I said, oh, I can't miss this one, obviously. But I was hoping to see you tomorrow, but I guess
I can't make it. It's too far. It's a
gotcha.
work day. I'm starting at 5 in the morning,
Oh
so I
my
got to wake
God,
up at
it's
3.
crazy.
Yeah, so it's going to be a long day. But if like technically it's an open-ended invitation, so I could technically go if things work out. Maybe you'll see me there. If not, I'll definitely be covering it on
Well,
my
listen, you
handle.
got my number. If you are going, shoot me a text. I'll be there tomorrow night. I mean, I'll be covering the event. I'll be doing a post game
Mhm.
analysis about the debate. And real quick here, obviously, we're talking about what tomorrow night represents, and certainly shout out to David Wildstein at the New Jersey Globe. They do a great job, along with Micah Rasmussen, Joey Fox, my good buddy Matt Rooney from Save Jersey will be one of the moderators. Of course, Laura Jones will be the chief moderator tomorrow night. Do you think it'll be civil? Because if anything, the last two have shown us. And listen, I'm a big WWE fan, so I like a little drama. I like a little tension in the air. I like people shooting on each other. That's what we saw the first 2 rounds. Do you think it'll be a little more civil tomorrow night?
I hope so, because I hope it gives people a good sense of who they want to vote for. Now, a lot of people are still grounded by who they're going to vote for, but
Sure.
a lot are still undecided. So here's what it comes down to: focus on the policies. The people don't want the bickering back and forth. It's going to probably happen, and I want to see unification. That's ultimately what I want to see from this whole thing. I want to say every candidate says, "I'm going to vote no matter what," and put my supporters in behind whoever happens here. Okay, that needs to be the message, because it's bigger than you. Okay, don't let your ego ruin a good thing that can happen here for this state. And that's ultimately what I want to happen tomorrow. I want people to have a good informed decision. They come June 10th, let the cards fall where they may be, and June 11th, let's come together and kick some ass in the state.
Michael, you still with us?
I'm still here.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Optimum, I go from Verizon Fios, and that's shit. And now I go to Optimum, and freaking that's shit too. My God, Wi-Fi. Goodness gracious. I'm sorry. I want to interrupt your last thought there about tomorrow's night and Unity.
Oh, well, if you didn't hear me, basically, I just want people to come together no matter what after June 11th. And I said, the candidates, I want them to tell everybody, the viewing audience, we're going to come together no matter what. And the break bread no matter what happens, because it's bigger than you. You know what I mean? And if we do that, we flip this damn state red, people. Like,
Yeah.
we get a governor. Hell, we can flip as many assembly seats as you can dream of if enough people come out. Voter turnout, as you mentioned before, is the biggest problem here. Okay, and the primary is going to be an interesting catalyst to see how many people turn out for the Democrats. It's probably going to be more so, obviously, mail-in votes than probably walk-ins. But the more we come out, it scares the shit out of the Democrats. The more we get involved, dude, it's good. I'm excited for the future here, and hopefully it all works out in November. That we get a Republican governor, no matter who it is, and our assembly is changed forever. Local areas. That to me is what keeps me going here.
Listen, I'm excited too. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of municipal races as well, some board of ed races, and again, I think if Republicans can win those races too and change the sort of the shape, the landscape of counties, that's a big deal too. And you're absolutely right. I think that listen, we're doomed if we don't get a Republican on November the 4th. We just are. And people again have to rally around the Republican nominee, whoever it is, because at the end of the day, Democrats are again they're going to be loyal. They're going to support each other, and they're going to go with a certain playbook. We have to counter that playbook, to your point, with facts and numbers. And folks, here's a spoiler for all the progressives and the social justice clowns and woke fools turning in tonight. The facts are on our side. The stats are on our side. We're coming with numbers and real world, obviously information, not social constructs, not all that woke bullshit. We're coming with facts, and I think that could flip New Jersey red, Michael. I totally agree with you. But I want to thank you for your time, man. You're always a gentleman. I enjoy our conversations. Again, you are a wealth of information, and I'll give you the last word here tonight on Real Talk.
Well, Fernando, I obviously appreciate you having me on here to discuss some very important topics for the state. And I just want to make sure that people are aware that, we have a race on June 10th for a primary and November 4th for a governor's race. And I think it's vitally important that the more that you inform, inspire, the more we take back the state each and every day. So all I want you guys to do is this: give 5 minutes each day
Yep.
to sharing content, not just for me, but for anybody out there, and good information to somebody. Wake up your neighbors, wake up your coworkers, wake up, anybody you could possibly see. Wawa cashier, I don't care who it is.
Yeah.
Just make sure that we are getting good information out there and waking up everybody. I mean, I'm plugging my handle technically, Wake Up NJ, but it's the truth, man. The more we do that, the more we take back the state.
And by the way, I can tell the north-south divide here when you talk about Wawa. Yeah, not a lot of Wawas by me up here, man. Just a lot of quick checks at 7-Elevens. But there's one Wawa by me, actually. So hopefully, I love Wawa food and coffee. So I'm hoping that I see more Wawas up by me. I know down by South Jersey, when I used to live in New Brunswick, when I attended Rutgers, man, that was my first exposure to Wawa. I was like, well, wait a minute, what is this? Wawa? This is amazing. Yeah. We need more of this,
I have a question for you, Fernando. Are you a Taylor ham or a pork roll guy?
Believe it or not, not much of a ham guy or pork. Like for example, like I'm Cuban and Colombian. During Christmas time, like it's really, really customary to have pork at Christmas. I really don't have it. I'm not a big. If I'm not eating a Cuban sandwich, I'm not really having pork or ham on a regular basis, brother.
It was more about your allegiance than actually if you eat it or not, man. That's really what it comes down to.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, sorry, man. I wasn't sure that's the answer you're looking for. So, but definitely, Michael, you're a wealth of information, brother. Are you a dad, by the way?
I am. I have 3 boys in the state, and that's actually, you said, big reason I got involved.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say again, since June's right around the corner, happy Father's Day in advance to you. And
my birthday is actually on primary day. June the 10th.
Oh, wow. Very nice. Okay. Well, listen, hopefully, we'll get the candidate that we deserve. And moving forward on June 11th, Republicans, independents, conservatives, we got to rally, be united about making New Jersey red and really getting common sense back into Trenton. And it starts, again, on June 10th, and it starts moving forward up until November the 4th. And it starts, folks, with great influencers like my guest tonight, Michael Archon, one of the co-founders of Wake Up NJ. Make sure you like them on Facebook, follow them on Instagram, X, YouTube, and also on TikTok. It makes a big difference, folks. When you want real information, trust me, we want to wake up New Jersey. It starts with Wake Up NJ. Michael, thank you so much, man, for coming on here. God bless you. Keep up the good work. And I'll see you soon here on Jersey First TV.
Thank you.
Take care, man.
See ya.
Folks, good stuff there with Michael Archon. Once again, one of the co-founders of Wake Up NJ. Great traffic here, folks. Seeing some great numbers. Seeing some comments here. Let me just go through them again. Okay, shout out to Kate and D-Scan. Let me just see here a few other people as well. I know I saw Gregory Kipp on here via Twitter, excuse me, as well as Julie25. Ladies, gentlemen, appreciate you tuning in tonight and reposting tonight's episode on all your social media handles. Again, without all of you folks at home, this would not be possible. So, again, shout out to everyone that helps make Real Talk with Fernando Uribe the success that it is with traffic. And, of course, it starts with great guests like my guest tonight. Once again, Michael Archon, one of the co-founders of Wake Up NJ. Folks, it's a little after 7 o'clock here on the East Coast. Don't go anywhere. Again, we're still talking about election 2025. And, folks, we'll be talking about election 2025 obviously throughout the rest of the year. Folks, as you can see there, I'm not rocking the usual red on this program. I'm rocking orange. And you know why I'm rocking orange?
Next! Let's go next! Let's go next! Let's go next!
That's right, folks. The New York Knicks are in the Eastern Conference Finals. And it starts this Wednesday against the dreaded Indiana Pacers. We owe them a receipt from last year. It's been a great rivalry with the Indiana Pacers going back to the 90s. Folks, the Knicks, they're a team of destiny here. You saw it last week, dethroning the reigning, well, no longer defending NBA champions, the Boston Celtics, Knicks in 6. And I'm going to call it right now, Knicks in 6 in the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time in 25 years. I'm calling it. Knicks are going back to the finals starting on June 7th. And again, folks, I cannot say enough about what it means to this area. When the Knicks are good, it's just a different vibe in New York and New Jersey.
Next! Let's go next! Let's go next! Let's go!
Oh, that's right, folks. That's music to my ears. More on that later. But, folks, again, we appreciate you tuning in here. And don't go anywhere because it's time for Final Thoughts. Yes, folks, a lot to unpack here tonight during Final Thoughts. And let me start off with some toxic people in New Jersey media. And of course, two people that, ay Dios mío, like probably the least photogenic people I can think of in New Jersey politics and activism. Yeah, you know who it is, right? Bob Medina and his wife, Patricia, right? Like un pendejo y una campesina, getting married and, bloviating online. Not exactly a good mix there. But I'm not sure if Bobby's watching. I think Bobby, it's after 7 o'clock, Bob Medina, he's like 93 years old. I mean, it's way past his bedtime, of course. Right. And we all know Patricia is probably out somewhere coddling illegals or, coddling jihadists on college campuses or enabling jihadists, which, by the way, brings me to my next point here, which is why Bob and Patricia Medina are such toxic people in our election cycle. And it worries me when, you see people running for office that are, again, embracing support from vile human beings like Bob and Patricia Medina. And a great, interesting column that brought to my attention by some of my various sources here via Jewish Insiders. Folks, if you're not sure if you subscribe to Jewish Insider, I do. You visit them at jewishinsider.com. You can subscribe to the newsletter like I do. Interesting, though. Recent column says Mikey Sherrill, as you all know, she's a U.S. representative from the 11th Congressional District up in, Essex County, those parts of Morris County, embraces endorsement from progressive activists who supports ending U.S. aid to Israel. So let me just give you a perspective here. So Representative Mikey Sherrill's gubernatorial campaign accepted endorsement from Patricia Campos Medina, a progressive organizer and former Senate candidate who was called to end U.S. aid to Israel and express support for anti-Israel campus protests. All those jihadists that are on college campuses. What I'm talking about, right? Like, I've mentioned them to you. I've shown you who they are. But just in case, like, you need a reminder, what I'm talking about, right? Like those type of despicable people, we see them, right? Like, like people like this.
That is the battle between good and evil. Netanyahu was right when he said this is a war between.
Folks, this is who Patricia and Bob Medina endorse. This is who they support. They like to coddle anti-Semitism and anti-Semites on our college campuses. Don't believe me? I mean, again, just look at their social media, right? Well, what's interesting here, obviously, Cheryl said in a post she was absolutely thrilled to receive such an endorsement. Again, Representative Cheryl, I'd be careful about associating with people like this because, let's be honest, Bob and Pat and Patricia are not trustworthy, okay? But what was interesting last week, right? I'll cover a little bit more about the column, is having a rally or a sit-down with certain Latino activists to talk about the business climate in New Jersey, which is as bad as it's ever been. But what's interesting is in that panel, of course, you can see there who's having a photograph with Representative Cheryl. Let me just make sure I get the name correctly because, I don't want to be accused, of giving false information because that's not that's not what I do. That's like the establishment media's job to give out false information and mislead you. I don't mislead you on this program. All right, but let me just give information here just to make sure. Obviously, oh, yes, that's right, folks. As you can see there, the gentleman there in the photo with Representative Cheryl is a gentleman by the name of John Sanchez, who apparently is from the Newark Chamber of Commerce, who apparently hasn't filed paperwork correctly to join the statewide Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. So while hardworking people like Carlos Medina and Luis de la Hoz, right, like real business people are mobilizing to help Hispanic-owned businesses in New Jersey, be legitimate, to perhaps get capital. Like those are good, legitimate people, not John Sanchez. So I'm a bit concerned for Representative Cheryl when she surrounds herself with vile people like John Sanchez, right? Or Patricia and Bob Medina. Again, people who love to coddle illegals, and as we've come to learn, who love to coddle jihadists, right? But you can also recognize other vile people in that picture, and one of them that stood out for me was Naomi Velasquez, the president of the Board of Ed in Jersey City. Now, never mind esta boba, que no sabe esta parada, but of course, you would think that someone who understands the evils of totalitarianism and communism, right, and socialism wouldn't be rocking a hat that glorifies despicable people like El Che Guevara. But somehow Naomi will tell you, yes, she's all about resisting Donald Trump and resisting totalitarianism and fascism. Folks, here's a bit of a history lesson to Naomi, and I don't know how old Naomi is. But at some point, honey, I'm sure you took a history course at some point in your life. Have we all learned about what a despicable person Ernesto Che Guevara was? And for someone like Naomi, who's going to be all about, oh, yes, I have to stand up for the alphabet mob, and, trans rights are human rights, right? Folks, by the way, Che Guevara was responsible for assassinating people of color, people in the LGBT community. But somehow, come mierdas like Naomi Velasquez will rock hats like this. Like somehow it's a fashion trend that's worth glorifying. No, folks, these are the individuals. These are the vile individuals that surround themselves with Democrat politics and activism. Okay? I wouldn't trust Naomi Velasquez to run a hot dog stand or a lemonade stand in the middle of a heat wave during the summer. But somehow in Jersey City, someone thinks it's a good idea to name her the president of the Board of Ed. Can someone explain this to me? How a pendeja like Naomi Velasquez gets to be board president? Again, folks, here's a very important line that my grandmother, God rest her soul, and my mother, my lovely mother, again, who I get my good looks from, told me a very long time ago, and I'll sort of say it in Spanish, but then I'll translate to English. Dígame con quién andas y te digo quién eres. That's pretty much like, tell me who you hang out with, and I'm going to tell you who you are. Well, folks, be careful. Whether it's Representative Cheryl or other candidates that are running during this during this gubernatorial campaign, or even assembly candidates. Because when you surround yourself with basura, like Patricia and Bob Medina, I don't know about you, but I don't want that smell on me. I mean, God knows I've been around Patricia and Bob. And believe me, I feel like taking a shower when I'm near them. I don't feel very clean. Let's be honest, when it comes to like their ideologies, they're pretty dirty too. But then again, what do you expect from people who love to coddle jihadists and love to coddle illegals? That's who is trying to dominate the election cycle here, folks. So for, candidates running for governor or candidates running for the assembly or even, municipal candidates, steer clear of people like this. Because if you want to like enable illegals and you want to coddle jihadists who are destroying property on our college campuses, right? Well, you have choices, folks. You can either support righteous people and stand up for Jewish people like I do, or you can be on the side of jihadists like Patricia and Bob Medina. We're not the same because unlike them, like I don't lack that 4-syllable word that they struggle with, among other words that they struggle with. Integrity. Well, we all know when it comes to Bob Medina and Patricia Campos Medina, when it comes to integrity, they don't have any. Speaking about not having integrity, well, let's get into the establishment media here in New Jersey, and also activism and academics. And folks, as you can see there behind me, obviously, this collage of social justice clowns and woke fools and propagandists masquerading as journalists, folks, they have spent years lying to you. And in no particular order, as you can see there, obviously, you can see Joe Amaditis from the Center for Cooperative Media over there at Woke State University in Montclair, or Alan Steinberg with Insider NJ. Alan Steinberg, the host of Dynamic Political Centrism, where only 9 people watch me every week, including my girlfriend, who's even older than I am. I think we all know Alan Steinberg, Yes, I'm 97 years old, and somehow I still love taking the train to go watch my New York Mets, who, by the way, who's the team that runs New York? Ain't the New York Mets, Alan. So, but, whether it's propagandists like Alan Steinberg or Tom Moran or John Van Vliet from Insider NJ or, take your pick, folks, useless people working in academia like Maria Rodriguez-Gregg or useless operatives like, Laura Bustamante, or do-nothing journalists like Matt Friedman, Charles Style, an activist that, blatantly coddle illegals or lie to you on a regular, like, Amy Torres, or lazy journalists like David Cruz. So I guess well, no trabaja. Right? I think we saw that last week, right? Or propagandists like Max Pizarro or Jay Lasseter. I know it's hard to recognize Jay Lasseter because Like he has something in his mouth there, like which is a bong. But then again, when doesn't Jay Lasseter have something in his mouth to begin with? I mean, that's just Jay Lasseter's life, right? Or other propagandists like Bob Henley. Folks, what I'm getting to is that what we learned from over the weekend, or even last week, the establishment media in New Jersey specifically, and activists and, people that want to rally about progressive causes, they lied to you about Joe Biden. They lied to you for the last 4 years that somehow Joe Biden was doing cartwheels in the Oval Office and he was juggling knives. Or he was doing trigonometry homework for some of the kids of the reporters that were in the Oval Office. What did we learn, folks, about Joe Biden? Joe Biden was a mess. So who exactly was governing? Who exactly was running the country as Joe Biden was declining? And I don't want to hear about this cancer diagnosis. Folks, really? Miraculously over the weekend, as we're about to hear the audio tapes that are going to drop this week and books that are going to outline Joe Biden's decline, somehow mysteriously this diagnosis surfaces? Folks, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical doctor, but I know enough from reading that when you have that type of prostate cancer, that's been developing for years. So does the establishment mean to tell us that we're just learning about this now? President of the United States, folks, has the best doctors anywhere in the world. And you're just now discovering this? What convenient timing. But for years, lazy journalists like Max Pizarro, David Cruz, Alan Steinberg, when he was awake, useless idiots like John Van Vliet, Matt Friedman, who, let's be honest, folks, if it's not jerking off about marijuana and how much his homegrown plants have grown, I mean, is Matt Friedman really doing any work? Or Chucky, who exemplifies Trump derangement syndrome, or Bob Henley, or Jay Lasseter, right? What do we hear for the last 4 years? Oh, Republicans like Donald Trump and conservatives or podcasters or influencers like Fernando Uribe, they don't know what they're talking about. They're just using scare tactics. Folks, they lied to you about Joe Biden. They blatantly lied to you. Here's a nice little collage of what we knew, but what we've come to learn about Joe Biden and what the media knew and chose not to report about it. Let's go to that.
News alert, a recording of Joe Biden's interview with special counsel Robert Hur has just been released. Axios got its hands on about 8 minutes. We'll play some of it for you in a second. Robert Hur had been appointed special counsel by the Biden Justice Department to investigate Joe Biden's mishandling of classified documents during and after his vice presidency. Classified documents were discovered in sloppily packed boxes in Joe Biden's garage next to his Corvette and inside his home office. At the same time Biden was raiding Mar-a-Lago and indicting Trump for mishandling classified documents, his handlers were scrambling to locate the classified documents that Biden had mishandled. Now, Biden, as VP, didn't have the constitutional authority to possess any classified documents. So after Robert Hur interviewed President Joe Biden, he released a report. The report stated that Joe Biden had mishandled classified documents, but because he was a, quote, sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory, he declined to recommend charges. Later, the transcript of the Biden-Hur interview was released, but not the audio. Tonight, we have some of this audio. First, we'll play you a portion where special counsel Robert Hur asks President Biden, "Where did you keep your papers?" And Biden can't answer, and then rambles incoherently about his son. Can't remember when his son died and can't remember when Trump was elected. Watch.
So during this time, we were living in Chambers Road, and there were documents related to the Penn Biden Center or Biden or the cancer moonshot or your book. Where did you keep papers that related to those things that you were actively working on?
Well, I don't know. This is what, 2017, 18, that area. Remember, in this time frame, my son is either been deployed or is dying, and so it was And so I hadn't at this point, even though I'm at Penn, walked away from and so what was happening though, one month ago dying, May 30th, 2018, 2015 he died. 2015. I think it's 2015.
I'm not sure the months are, but I think that was
That's right, Mr. President.
And what's happened in the meantime is that Trump gets elected in November of 2017? 2016. All right. So,
I mean, folks, you get the picture, right? I mean, look at the cognitive decline of the 46th president. But for the last 4 years, even going before 2020, all we heard from these useless people in different avenues, right, with academia, whether it be in journalism, whether it be in activism, was that Joe Biden was as sharp as a tack, right? That cognitively he was as good as anybody. Folks, you want to know why the establishment media, you want to know why people don't trust the establishment media and why faith in them has eroded for years now? You want to know why independent journalism like yours truly and other independent journalists are doing so well? It's not because we're not reinventing the wheel. We're not lying to you. But you know who lies to you regularly? People behind me. Take your pick, especially the journalists. Take your pick like Uncle Dave, David Cruz. This lazy bastard, if we get 2 days out of the week, him working, that's a miracle. Okay? He's more concerned about what the food that they're serving in the food court at Gateway Center than actually reporting the news. But God forbid you called out the President of the United States and said, oh, even though our eyes could tell us clearly what's going on. No, Uncle Dave would rather, coddle illegals and talk about, democracy and totalitarianism and fascism. These are some pretty big words for Uncle Dave that we all know he can't spell them. Okay? Or other hyper hysterics. Okay? Like Max Pizarro. Folks, this lazy mother effer barely leaves this house to do any work. Okay? And I'm supposed to believe the columns that Insider NJ publishes? What is wrong with the Graham family? At what point do they just want to just keep throwing money away? Because God knows when it came to paying people, hey, their GM Pete O'Neillia, it was like pulling teeth to get a check out of that bastard. I know firsthand when I worked at Insider NJ, trust me, it was like pulling teeth to get paid from this guy. Okay? But the journalists I'm going to call them propagandists, would rather go on about Trump with their Trump derangement syndrome and talking about, oh my God, the threats of democracy. And you know what? Oh, we're seeing totalitarianism. We're seeing the end of the republic. No, folks, we didn't see anything like that. What we saw was blatant lying by the Biden administration. And what we saw were their accomplices in the establishment media, not just nationally, but also statewide. Well, it's Max Pizarro, John Van Vliet, Tom Moran, especially Tom Moran. That lazy bastard, I mean, let's be honest too, folks. As dishonest as it comes in New Jersey media. Okay? Or Charles Stile or Matt Friedman. Again, folks, these are, I would hope that, with the amount of urgent cares that are open in the New York, New Jersey area, that at some point they would have gone and get their TDS diagnosed. But you wouldn't see that. So they'd rather lie to you and tell you how evil Donald Trump is and blatantly just be dishonest and tell you how inept Joe Biden became. But that's who we're supposed to trust when it comes to the purveyors of news and information. Folks, that's why independent media is thriving. That's why news sites or sites that are, being influencers like Wake Up NJ, the New Jersey Project, okay? Sites like Save Jersey and Jersey First TV. You want to know why we're thriving? Because we're not lying to you the way the establishment media did nationally for years and continues to, but very much the way New Jersey media continues to. I'll give you another clip here. I think that'll put in perspective.
Your tape right now because I'm about to tell you the truth. And F you if you can't handle the truth. This version of Biden is the best Biden ever.
She knows so long as she was denied.
In fact, I think he's better than he's ever been.
President Biden has a photographic
Folks, that's all I heard for 4 years. Like, literally, that's Joe Biden for 4 years.
memory. His understanding and mastery of a complicated geopolitical situation, remarkable.
He is sharp, intensely probing, and detail-oriented and focused.
Jackie, are you here? Where's Jackie? I didn't think she was going to be here.
I was sitting, 2 feet from him across the table, and he was, intense.
Have trouble walking sometimes? Yeah, so did FDR. He wanted GD war.
But he's totally focused. He's very sharp.
They say he's sharp in meetings and so on.
Very lucid, very well informed. Biden is stately, and he comes with gravitas. There hasn't been, as far as I know, a single claim that Biden made a mistake.
Ageism is an issue. Americans have a rich history of holding people's physical characteristics against them. Okay, you can ask African Americans.
He's older. That doesn't mean that he is unfit, and there's a lot of ageism there.
Now, this age attack, this obsession by the right,
Joe Biden may not be able to speak for himself the way that he used to.
They want to think to take on government if we get out of line, which they're talking again about, and that's him lying around.
I think people should be speaking up for Joe Biden.
Americans and reporters in the media are just judging him by a physical appearance, and it's horribly unfair. Age is an...
People who have probably never been in a room with Joe Biden and certainly don't have medical degrees that I'm aware of.
You don't get paid for performance, President. You don't. The job is not a job of endurance. I don't see Donald Trump out bike riding like Joe Biden.
It's the Hillary...
Oh, no. Donald Trump's only, working 20 hours a day, negotiating peace agreements between India and Pakistan, getting China to agree to, tariff deals, freeing prisoners from Gaza, ensuring that ICE is doing their job and getting rid of criminal illegals. Oh, yeah, no. Donald Trump has no energy, but Joe Biden did. Really?
His email. All they have is that he's old. He can clear a dementia bar, and that's probably a win.
The media are not fair, and they're getting less and less fair, and things are frightening. You have Wall Street Journal running a horribly sourced piece saying that Biden is unfit.
Dubious Wall Street Journal report about the president's acuity.
shoddy story by the Wall Street Journal.
Folks, you get the picture, right? That's what we endured for the last 4 years, if not more. About the mental competency of Joe Biden. Okay? And how convenient of this diagnosis over the weekend on a Sunday? Folks, does anyone else find that to be weird? A diagnosis of that severity, supposedly, just drops on a Sunday? Really? Is anyone else buying this? Really? As books are coming out, as we're seeing more and more people on the left and even panelists on the major news networks, right? Like CNN, MSNBC, right? Who have about the same amount of viewers as, Alan Steinberg with Dynamic Political Centrism and his bullshit podcast, all 11 people that watch it. Okay. Alan, your kids and your, 98-year-old girlfriend, that doesn't really count as a demographic, like a real audience. You don't have that. But you get the picture, folks. People don't trust the establishment media, whether it's national or especially here in New Jersey. And the reason that yours truly continues to get good traffic, again, I'm not reinventing the wheel. I just didn't create podcasting. No, of course not. The reason I'm good at what I do is because, folks, I'm not going to lie to you. But you know who lies to you regularly and has been lying to you? David Cruz, Max Bizzarro, Tom Moran, John Van Vliet, Bob Hennelly, okay? Charles Stile, Matt Friedman, okay? Jay Lassiter. Probably the least masculine person I've ever seen in the history of New Jersey media. These are the individuals that claim to know more than you do. That's why you should listen to them. No, folks, I call bullshit. And that's what we've been seeing about the coverage of Joe Biden. Again, folks, the audio tapes are there. The footage is there. And somehow we were supposed to believe that this man wanted to run for president and that he deserved another term. And yes, for all the crybabies, all the social justice clowns and woke fools in New Jersey that, warned about impending fascism and totalitarianism. Folks, I'm sorry. Has constitutional government been suspended? No, it hasn't. Are we trying to clean up this country? When Joe Biden and his administration let in millions of illegals? Like, clearly we're knowing Joe Biden wasn't fit to serve as president of the United States. So who exactly was governing? Who was signing executive orders? Pardoning all the clowns on the January 6th committee? Or pardoning members of his own family? Who was doing all that? Why weren't these questions being asked? Right? Oh, no. Don't ask David Cruz that. You can ask him what's on the menu at the food court. He'll know that without question. Right? Don't ask Max Pizarro those questions. I mean, the lazy bastard doesn't even leave his house. So, I mean, really? Like, he's not going to answer that. But you get what I'm saying, right, folks? The reason that New Jersey residents, now more than ever, don't trust the establishment is because, without a shadow of a doubt, what we've come to learn, not just with their coverage of the 46th president, is that they lied to you. They lied to you about what we learned about during the election of 2020. But here's an interesting perspective, and I got to give it to Scott Jennings, the only reason to watch CNN. But he had a wonderful speech over the weekend. I'm just going to give you a quick excerpt as to why we should continue to question who was governing this country the last 4 years and why there needs to be accountability. Check this out.
I had a nickel for every time I had heard an anchor or a fellow commentator use the phrase, the big lie, after the 2020 election. I'd be a rich man. But I wonder what they have to say for themselves now about the lies that we were told about Joe Biden. Oh, behind closed doors, he's fine. He's riding unicycles and juggling knives and doing trigonometry blindfolded. What would they say about the enormous conspiracy that was required to cover up this impairment? What would they say about the coordinated smear campaign against anyone who dared question it? And what would they say about the clear fact that unelected people were making decisions in a constitutional republic in the name of a president who had no idea what was going on? Shame. Shame on every one of these people who inflicted the real big lie on America and the constitutional crisis upon the people of the United States.
Folks, I couldn't have said any better than Scott Jennings. Again, the only reason to watch CNN at night. But he said it perfectly there. Shame on every single person that would lecture you and be condescending to you about, how dare you question Joe Biden or question the previous administration. Folks, we're learning about it in real time now. There needs to be some accountability. We're not going to get it from the establishment media. They're not going to tell you exactly what to really learn or believe, because let's be honest, they live to lie to you. And you want to know why I have zero respect for everybody on that board behind me in that collage? Is because they all go out of their way to be blatantly dishonest. But especially the establishment media here in New Jersey. And I know they don't like me and they don't respect me. Well, guess what? Here's a newsflash. Too effing bad. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to continue getting good traffic, unlike you guys. The only traffic you know is what's on the Parkway or the Turnpike or Route 78 or Route 35, during rush hour. You wouldn't know good traffic if it fell from the sky. But there's a reason why more and more New Jersey residents are not trusting the establishment media here. Institutions that we thought were supposed to be doing their job and reporting the news. NJ.com, the Star Ledger, Insider NJ, NJ Spotlight News, NorthJersey.com, Politico, New Jersey. Take your pick. They've been lying to you. So when I say that all these people here are basura, Yes, folks, they are. They're basura. I don't have a problem saying that on this program. And a lot of them have a lot to say about me off the air or on keyboards. That's cool. When we all know that none of them have the courage or dignity or character to say it to me personally. And they've seen me in public, but, again, that will require them, all of them behind me, to have, remember, that 4-syllable word that they struggle with, among other words, integrity. Folks, it's garbage humans doing a garbage job. Speaking of garbage humans, we started with Patricia and Bob Medina to everybody behind me. Let's finish up with another garbage human, and that's Ravi Bala. One of the worst candidates ever running, I would argue, for the New Jersey State Assembly. Let me give you a perspective here, folks, just about how awful Ravi Bala is. Okay? Make sure I have this up here so you can read it there, of course. Okay. And what I've come to learn about Hoboken during the Ravi Bala administration, and again, it should tell you where the priorities of Hoboken are. And by the way, seeing Ravi Bala yesterday at the Hoboken Arts and Crafts Festival, you would think that if he's campaigning, why would you campaign in front of somebody else's table, right? When you have options in the 32nd Legislative District like Jessica Ramirez and Crystal Fonseca, no, folks, Ravi Bala isn't one of them. But you can see it there. I don't have to tell you exactly, but you can see it there. But here's an interesting usage of your tax dollars in Hoboken. So if you're worried about ICE, Hoboken's going to run a, quote, Know Your Rights seminar about immigration rights. Apparently, Immigration and Customs Enforcement have conducted recent raids in New Jersey, including Hudson County. Find out about your rights. Again. So, of course, can U.S. immigration officials detain you if you can't present proof of citizenship on the spot? Or what if you have a green card or you're not a citizen, but your child is? Okay. Worries have grown in the immigrant communities and among tourists in light of recent cases in which a Canadian citizen, a British tourist, and a Columbia student with a green card were detained by U.S. immigration officials. Right? For example, earlier this year in February in Hudson County, 16 people were arrested at a North Bergen warehouse after ICE officials performed a, quote, unannounced inspection. Are they supposed to send you an email or a certified letter that they're doing this? Really? Right? The raid was meant to, quote, ensure individuals working in government-regulated facilities were lawfully present and permitted to work in the United States. Yeah, that's part of their job. Don't tell it to Ravi Bala, though. Okay? So, of course, Hoboken thought it was a good use of taxpayer dollars to hold a free seminar, quote, Know Your Rights seminar on immigration law. Of course, and it was paid for by the city of Hoboken and hosted by the Hoboken Public Library, and the Immigration and American Citizenship Organization hosted the program. Right? Folks, you get the idea, right? This is what goes on in Hoboken with your tax dollars. This is what goes on under the leadership or lack thereof of Ravi Bala. Okay? Whether it's raising property taxes 16%, what does Ravi care? He cares more about pronouns and coddling mentally ill people, trans people, right? Folks, no amount of makeup or plain dress up or whatever therapy, okay, is going to change the fact that a man can never be a woman. Okay? Don't talk to Ravi Bala and the rest of the Lollipop Guild in Hoboken. Joe Quintero, that useless attorney, Emily Jabor running for mayor, the charisma vacuum, Philip Doyle, right? Or Jim Doyle, excuse me. Or Phil Cohen, the other charisma vacuum. Folks, I would tell you, I'm not afraid of a lot of things, but I'll tell you what I'm really terrified about. Imagine being stuck in an elevator with Phil Cohen. First of all, his nose would get there before he does. And imagine being stuck in an elevator and suffocating to death because there's no oxygen because of Phil Cohen's nostrils using up all the oxygen. Right? But members of the Lollipop Guild have coddled Ravi Bala and have perpetuated this ridiculous narrative about, again, making sure Hoboken's a sanctuary city. But these are the priorities of the Ravi Bala administration. They're more concerned with pronouns than property taxes or public safety. Or the idea that residents in Hoboken are getting assaulted in broad daylight. and there aren't police to be found, or you're not hiring enough police officers, or you're letting all these e-bikes or delivery people on Washington Street monopolize the sidewalks. That's what you care about, Ravi. You don't care about quality of life in Hoboken. When did you? As we've seen Hoboken turn to absolute shit. During flooding, we've seen all the rats in Hoboken. Not just the rodents that, are a public safety hazard, right, to kids and the elderly. We're talking about the rats at City Hall, right? How you've increased spending on hiring more, cronies in your office and more kiss asses to work for you at City Hall. That's the Ravi Bala administration. That has come to symbolize who Ravi Bala is. And somehow, and I get it, the 32nd Legislative District is the most progressive district in New Jersey, and I get it. They love what Ravi stands for. They love all the hoopla about pronouns and making sure that every June that we repaint the sidewalks or the crosswalks to coddle the alphabet mob or to have drag queen story time in front of children at the Hoboken Public Library. Again, using your tax dollars in Hoboken. That's who Ravi Bala is. Do you really think he's a good candidate for the state assembly? I don't. Again, folks, take your pick there. And this isn't slander or defamation. Folks, everything you see on that slideshow, okay, everything you see there, those are all facts. Ravi Bala has ruined Hoboken. Why give him the chance to ruin the 32nd Legislative District? Because you have options on June the 10th. You have Crystal Fonseca, an incredible young woman, fellow Yankee fan, by the way. An incredible young woman who's been through so much shit in recent months. Where just a few weeks ago, it would have been nice if she could celebrate Mother's Day. She did not have the opportunity to, due to a tragedy. But that hasn't deterred her. She's still strong. She's still someone that, you want to believe in. A public worker, a public servant who's trying to earn your vote on June 10th. So when you think about options in the 32nd Legislative District, folks, you have Crystal Fonseca. You have Jessica Ramirez, one of the incumbents in LD 32. Now, I don't agree with everything Jessica stands for. This ridiculous notion about weaponizing reproductive rights when we all know it's codified into state law, or wanting to coddle illegals and standing shoulder to shoulder with some horrible organizations in New Jersey. Not the biggest fan of that, but to her credit, she's gone to work. To her credit, Jessica Ramirez has gone to Trenton and trying to do her job for the 32nd Legislative District. So you have options coming up on June 10th. But folks, again, Ravi Bala isn't one of them. A guy who's been sanctioned by the New Jersey Bar Association, a guy who's been sanctioned by the New Jersey State Supreme Court, and somehow I'm supposed to trust Ravi Bala? Who are we kidding, folks? When Hoboken, he's allowed Hoboken to be gobbled up by developers, pricing out lifelong Hoboken residents, but somehow Ravi Bala is someone that should be serving in the state assembly? Really? Who thinks that's a good idea? It isn't. But he'll stand there and he'll blatantly lie to you about how committed he is. No, he should be. Yeah, he's committed, right? He should be committed. For what a blatant liar he is. Folks, I don't think I've ever seen a more compulsive liar running for state office like Ravi Bala. We saw that last year when he ran in the primary against Rob Menendez in the 8th Congressional District. And I like Rob. He's gone to work. He's rolled up his sleeves. I don't like a lot of his ideological positions. I certainly don't like him participating in a publicity stunt at the ICE detention center in Newark. That's what it was. Along with Ross Baraka and Representatives Coleman and Monica MacGyver, who, by the way, can someone tell me why Monica MacGyver is not in handcuffs right now? And I get that last year, Ravi Bala polled really well and, was trying to be a little bit of a headache in that primary in the 8th Congressional district. But people saw through his bullshit. Folks, on June the 10th, again, I'm asking you, please see through the bullshit now. You have better choices on June the 10th. Crystal Fonseca, Jessica Ramirez. But certainly, it's not Ravi Bala. I'm not going to tell you how to vote, folks. But people in the 32nd legislative district seem to think they're very intelligent, right? Well, show your intelligence on June 10th, folks. And don't let Ravi Bala anywhere near the state assembly. Again, too much is at stake right now. And while Ravi Bala wants to coddle illegals and think it's okay for jihadists to, go on college campuses and destroy campus property and vilify Jewish students and Jewish faculty members. No, folks. See, unlike, again, the establishment media in New Jersey, I'm the only one sticking up for Jewish people. That's right. I'm the only one. Again, you have choices on June the 10th. And without a doubt, Ravi Bala shouldn't be one of them. Hopefully, that message gets through. And those are my final thoughts. Folks, once again, I want to thank you for tuning in tonight. Once again, I want to thank Michael Archon, the co-founder of Wake Up NJ. Again, you can check him out. Make sure you like Wake Up NJ on Facebook. Of course, follow them on Instagram, X, YouTube, and also on TikTok. Great content every single day about hopefully making New Jersey more affordable, but hopefully flipping New Jersey red. And now more than ever, I think that's really, really important. But folks, before we call it a night, again, as you see, I'm not wearing my usual red here on the program. I'm rocking orange. And you know why? Because the New York Knicks are in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Go Knicks! Let's go Knicks! Let's go Knicks! Let's go Knicks! Knicks! Let's go Knicks! Let's go Knicks! Let's go Knicks!
Let's say it again.
Knicks! Let's go Knicks! Let's go Knicks!
That's right, folks. The New York Knicks are in the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time in 25 years. I'm rocking the orange. Folks, how about you? But the glory days there of 90s basketball with the New York Knicks. First time in the conference finals in 25 years against their arch nemesis. A rematch from last year with the Indiana Pacers. There's a receipt coming for Indiana, folks. Trust me. Say it with me. Knicks in 6. Rocking that orange. And I might just rock it for the rest of the playoffs. Why not?
Knicks! Let's go Knicks! Let's go Knicks! Let's go Knicks!
That's right. Let's do it again.
Let's go Knicks! Let's go Knicks! Let's go Knicks!
Oh, that's right, folks. Let's go Knicks. And again, I can't say it enough. Eastern Conference Finals begin this Wednesday at the Mecca of basketball, the only garden, Madison Square Garden. So on behalf of all the Knicks fans in New York, New Jersey, let's go Knicks. Let's take out the Pacers and return to the NBA Finals. Let's go Knicks. That's our show for this week, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, I want to thank Michael Archon, the co-founder of Wake Up NJ, for a stimulating conversation about what's going on during this election cycle. And folks, I can't say enough. Make sure, again, if you haven't done so already, like, comment, share, and subscribe to all of our great content via Jersey First TV. Don't forget to like us on Facebook. Of course, follow us on Instagram and X. Subscribe to us on YouTube. And when you get your podcast on Spotify or SoundCloud, download Jersey First and take it with you anywhere at any time. Again, the weather's getting a little bit warmer. Maybe you're going down the shore. You want to listen to a podcast. Maybe you have your iPad or tablet with you on the beach. You're scrolling the news feed. Hey, check out Jersey First. Trust me, you won't regret it. And I can't say enough what a privilege it is to be on the dream team of Garden State Media, folks. That's right. It is Jersey First TV. Of course, brand new episodes of the Nader and Average premiere every Thursday, hosted by my amazing tag team partner, Elizabeth Nader, of course, with the Nader Narrative. And brand new episodes premiere every Monday of Real Talk. Of course, check out local listings for start times here on the Jersey First Television Network. And always remember, ladies and gentlemen, if it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid, it's always Real Talk right here on Jersey First TV. I am the generational talent in Garden State Media and the hero you need right now more than ever. Because, ladies and gentlemen, the establishment media will continue to lie to you. But guess what? I never will. And trust me, My level of honesty is truly necessary, especially with everything going on in the New Jersey establishment media. That's right, folks. It's me, Fernando Uribe. Once again, thank you to everyone who joined me this past weekend for my birthday. A new decade, a new day, but still the same handsome and knowledgeable and witty and funny Fernando Uribe. Thankful to everyone who celebrated with me. And once again, thank you to the good Lord for another year, another decade here. I'll keep raising hell and being your voice, ladies and gentlemen, every single week here. That's right. It's me, Fernando Uribe. Folks, please party responsibly. Enjoy this Memorial Day weekend. Again, folks, don't drink and drive. Take an Uber or a Lyft. Again, enjoy it with family and friends. We may get some good weather, so enjoy it. As I said before, please party responsibly. Enjoy, ladies and gentlemen, again, as we kick off summer this weekend for 2025. But we'll continue talking about politics and everything else going on in the Garden State right here on Real Talk with Jersey First TV. Folks, thanks for stopping by. And always remember, stay classy, everyone.